Facts Verse presents Teen Kicked Out of Prom When Adults Can't Stop Staring. Before we get started, make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell so you don't miss a single video. Prom. The one event that most students look forward to is their prom. Many students start looking forward to the prom at the beginning of the year. It's a night that's often unforgettable. The dresses, the tuxes, the limos, the music, and the dancing all make prom a night that most kids never forget. Claire Ettinger and James Thompson. Claire and James were students from Richmond, Virginia. They were really looking forward to enjoying the prom together. They were hoping that their prom would be something they would never forget. Not only would the prom be an excellent night for the couple, but they were also looking forward to mingling with their friends because it could be the last time that they would have the chance before summer vacation. When the couple made their plans for the prom, they hoped it would be as wonderful as proms were in the movies. The theme. The prom theme was going to be Twilight in Paris. All the seniors loved the idea because they were hoping for a magic and romantic night. What's more romantic and magical than Paris? Claire wanted to find the perfect dress for the big night. She went to just about every shop in town trying to find a dress. During her first shopping trip, Claire was unsuccessful. She couldn't find one dress that she considered perfect. She wasn't giving up, however. She was going to find the ideal dress if it was the last thing she did. Claire had just visited her sixth store and still found nothing. Her feet were killing her, so she decided to head home to rest. She was planning to go out the next day to continue her search. On her way home, Claire stopped in her tracks. She finally found what she had been looking for all along. A silver dress. When Claire saw the silver dress in the window, she was blown away. It was beautiful and glittery and exactly what she was looking for. She hoped that the dress would fit her perfectly. Claire took the dress and tried it on, and it fit perfectly. Unfortunately, there was one problem. There was a test that the dress needed to pass. According to the prom's dress code, girls' dresses needed to go at least farther down than their fingertips. The school put this policy in effect to be sure that girls didn't show too much skin at the prom. The test. Claire was very worried about the dress test. If this particular dress didn't pass, she would have to start looking for another one again. Claire really wanted to wear the dress to her prom, so she hoped that the dress would pass. She put the dress on and relaxed her shoulders and let her arms hang down by her side. She looked in the mirror and was thrilled when she saw that the dress went further than her fingertips. Claire was thrilled. She finally found a dress, and it was absolutely perfect. When she took the dress to the counter to pay, she never expected the dress to cause the commotion that it did. Posting photos. Like every girl in her class, Claire was taking photos of her prom preparation. She uploaded the pictures to her social media accounts. When she posed for one of the photos, she said she was channeling her inner Marilyn Monroe, and everyone should look forward to it. Claire did her makeup to match the dress, and to make sure that nothing would go wrong, she did the fingertip test again. Passing again. Claire wanted to be sure that nothing would ruin her wonderful night, so she did the fingertip test again. She relaxed her shoulders, stood in front of the mirror, and again, she passed. Claire even took a picture of herself passing the fingertip test. Next, Claire put her heels on. She knew that the heels would make her legs look longer, but still the dress went past her fingertips. She was ready for the prom and loved her dress. The finishing touches. After Claire did the fingertip test, she checked her hair and makeup. After putting on her red lipstick, she was ready to go. She was very excited to spend the night with her boyfriend and all their friends and celebrate. A reminder. As the students began to arrive at the venue, they gathered outside. The girls were showing off their dresses, and the boys were joking around with one another. While everyone was having fun together, one of the volunteers, Mrs. Duncan, reminded the girls of the fingertip length rule. Claire knew that her dress stood out because it was so shimmery and she was tall. She mentioned this to Mrs. Duncan and explained that her long legs made the dress look shorter than it was. Unfortunately, Mrs. Duncan didn't seem to care about what Claire had to say. Claire had been looking forward to prom for years, and she wasn't going to back down. Another test. Mrs. Duncan had a strong personality, but so did Claire. She wasn't going to let this woman ruin her prom, so she decided to prove everyone wrong and perform the test in front of everyone. Claire did the same thing she did at the dress shop and home. She relaxed her shoulders and put her arms down by her side. She proved to everyone that her dress was long enough, and finally she was allowed in the venue to enjoy her prom. An example. Claire could tell by the look on Mrs. Duncan's face that she wasn't happy with the fingertip test. She told Claire that her dress was a close call, and let Claire know that the volunteers inside would be watching her closely throughout the night. Claire didn't appreciate being singled out like that, but she didn't want it to ruin her prom. Even though Mrs. Duncan's voice rang in Claire's head, she still danced and had fun with James and her friends. shorter dresses. When Claire walked into the venue, she was upset that the other volunteers stopped her as well. She looked around, and many girls were wearing dresses that were shorter than hers. Nobody was saying anything to them, which bothered Claire. Why was she being singled out? Not only did Claire see girls with dresses shorter than her who were getting no warnings, but she noticed something else that she found disturbing. Watched like hawks. When Claire looked around the room, she noticed that there were prom volunteers in every corner of the room. Many of them had invaded the dance floor. Claire and all of her friends agreed that being watched like that gave the prom an awkward feeling. They felt like if someone made one false move, that something would happen. All of the volunteers made the prom stressful and not much fun. Too many chaperones. Claire and her friends felt almost violated by the way they were being watched. Many of the chaperones were adult males, and they were staring very intently at the group. Claire understood that chaperones were necessary to make sure that kids followed the rules and that there were no fights, but the number of chaperones was ridiculous. Another run-in with Mrs. Duncan. Claire was having fun with James and her friends when Mrs. Duncan approached her with another chaperone and pulled her to the side. She told Claire that her short dress was making the male chaperones uncomfortable, especially since she was dancing provocatively. Mrs. Duncan told Claire that her dancing was the root of impure thoughts. Claire couldn't believe what she was hearing. Shocked. Claire was shocked and appalled by what Mrs. Duncan was saying. She told the woman that it wasn't her fault that adult men looked at a teenage girl in this way. She told Mrs. Duncan that what she said made her feel violated. She was in 8th grade. How could these male chaperones feel sexual when they looked at her? She wanted to know why she was being used as a scapegoat, and she was furious. By this point, James and Claire's friends had crowded around to support her. Claire did the fingertip test again and passed, but it wasn't enough for Mrs. Duncan. James became very angry and wouldn't let Mrs. Duncan win. Sadly, Claire was told she had to leave. Refunds. James told Mrs. Duncan that if they were being kicked out of the prom, they wanted refunds for them and their friends, since everyone would be leaving with Claire. She refused, which only made the situation worse. Mrs. Duncan called over another volunteer for support, and the two got into a heated conversation. Mrs. Duncan's word was final, and security escorted Claire out of the prom. She was heartbroken. After the security guard escorted Claire out of the dance, she asked if he agreed with Mrs. Duncan. He told her that he disagreed completely, but he didn't have the final say. It's war. Claire took to social media to make her story public. As soon as she created the post, people were posting their support for her. People were visiting the Richmond Homeschool Prom's Facebook page and shared their sympathy for what happened to Claire. The page filled up so much that the administrators took the page down. Many of the people who commented about the story said it was the perverted men at the dance who started the whole thing. Soon, the public was chiming in about how disgusting it was that men were sexualized over 8th grade girls. Nationwide attention. Mrs. Duncan had no problem sticking to her guns on social media. News outlets reached out to Claire to talk about what happened. When they tried talking to the outspoken Mrs. Duncan, she was nowhere to be found. Finally, Mrs. Duncan was interviewed, and despite the hate she was getting, she didn't back down. She even refused to refund Claire for her ticket. Most of the country was on Claire's side, but sadly, her prom was still ruined. This teen got kicked out of prom when adults can't stop staring, and it ruined what should have been a wonderful night. Which part of this story was the craziest for you? Let us know in the comments. And be sure to subscribe to Facts Verse for more great videos.